So, welcome to the center. To those of you who are fellows for life, welcome back. It's good to see some of you.
Welcome back, fellows.
Yeah, and to those of the current fellows, good to be here, and everybody else who are here as guests, welcome. I'm excited to welcome Maha Abouelenein, who is the author of this incredible book, 7 Rules of Self-Reliance. Maha is a good friend. Maha has also had an incredible, fascinating career, leading communications in big tech companies, Google, Netflix, Kareem, which was bought out by Uber, and I'm missing a bunch of them. She worked very closely with Gary Vee, but then according to Sherif, you also worked with the NBA and the NFL. I did not know that. That was like a whole, he gave me this whole list of sports. Donovan and Sherif work with very different minds. And you know, like me, Maha is an Egyptian American who kind of moved through 2 worlds all the time, and that has influenced her life. And so today we're really going to focus this talk on Maha's book, but also really talk about you know, why it is so important to focus on your narrative and to communicate your own story if you're an entrepreneur or if you're a professional in your day-to-day life. But I want to start, Maha, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. This is great. The students are great. The center is
like
amazing.
We're keeping them.
I love
like
it.
them.
I love it. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you. Special thanks to Donovan for all his support. Jackie downstairs, she's like leading me in. Thank you, Jackie.
Yeah, Jackie, come on, sit up front.
She's in
Why
the
are you
back.
in the back?
She's in the back.
Safe, come sit up front. So I'm going to start, Maha. You and I did a podcast today, so I'm going to try to take this in a little bit of a different direction. But I'm going to start because when you were talking to the fellows inside, you'd said something that actually we hadn't talked about. You said, it is not about building your personal brand. Forget about that. It's about building your reputation.
Yes.
Can you talk to the group about that?
Yes, I think you guys all heard. First of all, again, thank you. Is my mic on? I feel like it's not.
No, you want to borrow my, yours is on. Yours is on.
I'm just going to yell. No, I'm just kidding. But if a lot of people hear the term personal brand or personal branding, they're like, oh my God, they're just doing self-promotion, or that's related to being an influencer. I want you to take away the word personal brand and throw it away and replace it with the word reputation. That's what you're building. You have to build your reputation and you have to be intentional about it. And I talk a lot about, you know, there's 2 ways to build your reputation. In real life, which is the most important way, is how you treat people, how you interact with people, from the barista to your professors, to your family members, to your neighbors, to people you work with. That's how you shape a reputation, by building good relationships with people, but also how it works online. And a lot of people get rubbed the wrong way. They're like, I'm not a social media influencer. I don't want to be, you know, that person being an expert on social media. I don't want to be posting content. People are going to say, who does she think she is? But my point is, you have to be thinking about it, because I don't want someone else posting things about you that you didn't put there yourself. Because I can guarantee you that if you are not building your personal brand, someone else is doing it for you, and it's not what you want. So when people will Google you, they will look you up on Instagram, they will look you up on LinkedIn, make sure that what they find is what you want them to see. A clear profile picture, your name, your title, how to contact you. Do the basics. I'm not saying you need to be out posting every day, sharing your thought leadership, even though I think you should, because I think everyone in this room has an expertise and an insight. So you can either create content, either filming something, writing something, posting something, you know, an audio or video or podcast, or you can curate. You can take other ideas that you see out there and give your take. Or you can say, these are the 3 most important things I saw on the internet this week that have to do with environmental health care. And I want you to read these articles. These are the ones that I think are the most valuable. That's how you can build your brand and your personal brand, your reputation, is by sharing your expertise, sharing your thoughts. Your personal brand is made up of 3 things: your skills, your experience, and your personality. I might have the same exact skills and experience as Dina, but we have very different personalities. Think about who you follow on social media and why. Why do you connect with them? Why do you stop your thumb when you're scrolling? Why do you follow a certain expert on LinkedIn or somebody on X or Instagram? It's because you connect with their personality and how they do it. I had someone come to me and said, I'm a personal trainer, but there's so many personal trainers on the internet. How am I going to get anyone to like follow my rules and my exercises and my workouts? And I'm like, everybody likes to follow somebody different. Like they don't have your same personality. They may have the same skills and experience, but not your personality. So when you reframe the discussion of personal brand in terms of reputation, it changes the meaning completely. Because who here cares about their reputation? Raise of hands. Okay, everybody in this room cares about their personal brands. Thank you.
Well played.
Yes.
Very well played.
Not well played. It's just a fact of life. Like we live in a world of cancel culture, and you have to be sharing who you are so that someone doesn't do it for you in a way that doesn't represent your values.
Yeah. So if you don't speak for yourself, somebody else will, right?
Yeah, and I just feel like it's a really important tenet of how things work today.
Yeah. So about this book.
Yes.
7 Rules of Self-Reliance, how to stay low, keep moving, invest in yourself, and own your future. You know, this is not a self-help book. I just want to tell everybody this because I started reading it, and it is a really beautiful read, and I really encourage everyone to read through it. But for those who have not yet been able to dig into this book, what are the 7 Rules of Self-Reliance?
Yes. So this book, when people see the word self, they're like, oh, it's selfish. Or self-reliance means I'm an expert. I know everything. I don't need anybody else in life. This book is the exact opposite of that. The 7 rules of self-reliance are the tools I think you need to navigate today's world. What are the things you need to know how to do to rely on yourself so that you can bring value to others, inspire others, impact others, and ultimately feel good about yourself when you go to bed every night? The first rule is called stay low, keep moving. How can you stay focused on your goals in a world of distractions? You need to stay low, not low profile, stay low. Like if I'm always up here responding to what everyone else is pulling me in these directions and these things that social media or comparisons, I'm never going to achieve the things I wanted to do. I've been wanting to write a book for like 10 years. And then my sister finally said to me, she's like, is it really a goal of yours if you keep talking about it, you don't do it? I need to just like stay low, stay home, stop going out, stop reading, watching Netflix, stop messing around, and just spend 2 months. I wrote that in 2 months. I just stay low and I focused and I achieved my goal. Yeah. I knew I'd go out again. I knew I'd watch Netflix again. I knew I'll do all those things, but now is the time for me to stay low and focus. Keep moving because you're going to have setbacks. You're going to have bumps in the road. You're going to have bad days. There's going to be an economic downturn. So people who are self-reliant know the value of like just kind of do as much as you can to focus on what you care about. Because if you look at your calendar and most of your time is dedicated to other people and doing their needs, you're never going to focus on your needs. Yeah. That's the first rule. Do you want me to go through the other ones?
I mean, why don't you... I mean, I could
quick
choose some of those.
Okay.
If you want to go through all 7, I would welcome you, but, you know...
Whatever you want. You would lead the discussion.
Take your top 3.
The first one is I just went over. The other one is how to be a value creator. Rule number 2 is how to create value for other people. If you can learn how to bring value to other people, you become indispensable. Your family, your employers, your professors, your colleagues, your students. And to create value for somebody, how does that play out in the real world? Anticipate needs, solve a problem, deliver something that they care about. And it starts with one simple question. How can I help? By asking somebody how I can help, first of all, it shows you care. You generally want to know how you can help. But then you listen about their ambitions, their problems, their pain points, their objectives, their big dreams, their goals, and then try to see where you can pull one of those things to add value to them. And it could be something easy, making an introduction for somebody, sharing an article, or connecting them to somebody else. You know, I feel I have to learn what you care about. It's not what I think is valuable. It's what you think is valuable, Dina. If I want to bring value to you, I have to know. So I have to spend time getting to know you. And that in today's world is currency. Knowing how to bring value to other people. She will always want me in her life because I'm the kind of person that brings her value. And that's how I built my business, is I learned how to bring value to my clients. And they're like, well, Maha always brings something special or a secret sauce or an edge, or she'll be the first one there or the last one to go. She's always willing to bring value. So that's the second one. I get one more.
One more.
Okay.
more.
The third one I want to highlight is about being a long-term player. So that's rule number 6. We live in a world of
I thought you were
transactions.
gonna choose rule number 7.
No. Rule number 6, we live in a world of transactions where everyone's like, oh, I want to tit for tat, do this for you. I want to tap to pay to get out of the store. I want to download the whole season right now. And you have to learn how to build a long-term relationship with somebody. A friendship is not a button you push on Instagram and you just created a relationship by unfriending and friending. That's not a relationship. A relationship is nurturing. It's showing up. It's supporting. It's suggesting. It's being there. And I feel everyone in this room needs to know how to build their own network.
Yeah.
And know how to be good at building relationships. It is the currency of life.
But you said something today on the podcast, and you said building a network is not about transactions. And, you know, when you go to a school of business or when you're building a business, you are kind of in a transactional world. And how do you get your mind to move beyond that world of transactions to true, genuine? I think the word networking puts you in that like how do you, but what you're saying is you're building community, you're building long-lasting relationships.
Yeah, so like I go to a lot of events and I meet different people. And I have a QR code on my phone that has all my contacts and I exchange it with people. And I do this trick when I'm at an event is like I will meet you and we'll exchange numbers and then I'm like, what's your name? You, yeah, Fila.
Yeah, you, with Fila on your
Fila.
sweatshirt.
I love Fila. She's tennis. I'm like, you're Fila. Yumka? Yeah, Yumka? I will say to you, Yumka, I'm sorry, just could we take a picture? Because I'm meeting a lot of people and I want to make sure that we capture this moment and I'll just text it to you. I'm not posting it. That way I take a picture and then I took your number and then I'm going to text you that photo and then you're going to leave and my photo is in your phone now.
Oh my God, we have our entrepreneur in residence does that. Andrea Kate's back there. That's like her trick. She does that every time. She takes pictures. She emails it to you on the spot. Put your email in my phone.
Yeah, I leave the event and then I have pictures of the people and then I want to go back to the ones I care about connecting with because I can't possibly reconnect with everybody. I go to an event, maybe meet 15 people, but there's 2 I really want to build a relationship with. Then I follow up and I follow through. The way to build a genuine relationship with somebody is to show up for them, is to create value for them, is to listen when you meet them about what they care about and then send them something related to that or referring to the conversation. A relationship like a romantic relationship, a business, it takes time to develop.
Yep.
And you have to be willing to develop that over time.
Yeah.
And that's the key.
Yeah, I love it. And it's not, I think the value creation piece is so important. Like, what value are you bringing? But inevitably that also will lead to them bringing value to you and also, you know, having your back. And I say often, I believe, like, if there's a Dina rule, I really believe in something called the law of 2 feet. If you're in a relationship that is not reciprocal, right, where you're adding value and where value is being added to you, on some level, then it's when it becomes transactional and you have an obligation to take your 2 feet and invest your time in building a relationship elsewhere. Yeah, that's a Dina rule.
I love that Dina rule. I love the rule. Yeah, because I think we also, we all in this room, we have that barometer. We know when someone's using us or having a transaction and doesn't genuinely, once they get what they need, they're gone and they don't show up. So trust your gut, trust your instincts on that stuff because a lot of times we know the answers, we just don't listen to it.
Yeah. So I want to ask you another question because we are an entrepreneurship center and you have years of experience working with all kinds of different entrepreneurs. And I'm not talking about the big corporates. I'm talking about startups that have grown. And what are the biggest misconceptions that entrepreneurs have about communication and branding when actually launching their ventures?
Yeah, I think that entrepreneurs have to pay a heavy hand in telling the story of their founder story and how they built their business and why they built their business. Investors will always tell you that they don't really invest in the idea, they invest in the person behind the idea. They look at the founder. What's their grit? What's their story? What's their capacity to face challenges and to push through those challenges? So the entrepreneur story is key. An investor will never invest in a company if they don't believe in the founder's story.
Yeah.
Period. The investor, the entrepreneur also has an obligation to recruit talent and to retain talent. So how are you good at communicating your culture within your organization and outside your organization? That's a key component of being a good communicator. A CEO today, an entrepreneur today, doesn't need to be good at building an app and building a technology and scaling a business. They have to be good at communications, because that's how they acquire the customers, they acquire the talent, they keep the talent, they get the investor, they build the partnership. And I feel that's the new thing that they're starting to wake up to. It's not good enough to be smart and know how to crunch numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Are you an empathetic leader? Are you a kind leader?
What values do you have?
What values
What
do you have?
stand for in a world of people who are out there with very interesting values?
Yeah. Well, not only that, but like look at certain industries that get really, damaged. The healthcare industry, from all the money and what they were doing. I mean, you have to be very careful when CEOs are making a lot of money in industry and people are suffering. It doesn't make for a good story. And so you have to make sure you're communicating your values, empowering your teams, being an empathetic leader. All of that stuff matters. A modern CEO entrepreneur today cannot just be good at building a business. They must be good at communicating.
Yeah, and this morning you brought up something really important about think about it as you're communicating ideas and your thoughts. It's about thought leadership. Yeah. It's not about self-promotion, right? Yeah. So in your book, rule number 5, not one of the rules you chose, but rule number 5 is about how think of your reputation as your currency. And if you're in a growth market, an emerging market, businesses really need to build trust quickly. And we spoke about trust this morning, but what strategies do you recommend for entrepreneurs to establish credibility and authority through their communications?
Yeah, I think you need to tell people about challenges you face, things that you overcame. Talk about the stories of the team. I think I've spoken to a lot of companies, and when I would ask all hands in a meeting, who's in charge of communications, and most people would say it's the CEO or the PR manager. What I would say to build trust and credibility to your question is it's everybody's job. Because everybody has friends, everybody has family, everybody talks to people outside of work. You can build trust by having a lot of people consistently say the same thing about your business and about who you are as a company. And so I think the army of employees that are out there are the ones that are the front lines of building that trust.
Yeah. I want to take you to a time when you were working with Careem. And to those of you who don't know, Careem was the ride-sharing app of the Middle East that was eventually, Middle East, Southeast Asia, or South Asia, that eventually was bought out by Uber. And when you were at Careem, you kind of spearheaded this movement against Uber and came out on top. And, obviously in the ride-sharing business, reputation is everything. And that eventually they were bought out by Uber. And it was a big win, big exit for our part of the world. How did you maintain and strengthen Careem's reputation over time in a way that led to that exit?
It wasn't a campaign against Uber per se. At the time, Careem was in the market. They were the local player. And everybody knew this big American brand wanted to come into the market. And so what we did was just like, okay, the Americans can come into the market, but what about our values? What about our local, they didn't call them drivers, they called them captains. How do we reinforce our values? How do we talk about the local jobs that are being held, at the local homes that are being opened, that this is really helping the local economy? And we don't want this big bad American company to come in and put their standards and services and squash local communities and local jobs and local families. So we used it as a time, like when your back is up against a wall, is a good time to communicate and share your values widely. And that's what we did. And then it went from being like a hostile takeover to being sort of like a partnership, to being like a merger, to being an investment. And then they ended up keeping both brands in the market, yep. 2 separate companies, but one kind of P&L as an overall. And they're still both in the market, very strong. And consumers want choice. And now they can choose the American brand or they can choose the local brand. And that's winning for everybody.
It is. It was great. It is really a great outcome for that exit. I want to ask you another question because, when you're an entrepreneur and as you're growing your business, you often pivot and you have to shift strategy. And that involves some level of shifting your narrative. So what is your advice to entrepreneurs on how they can handle all the moments where they have to pivot in their business from a communications perspective?
Yeah, I think the one thing I consistently help people do is to be sticking to your values and don't change your narratives based on trends that are happening in the market. But sometimes you have to be agile. Sometimes you have to adapt. Sometimes you will be tone deaf if you don't adapt your narrative. And I feel the biggest problem that we will see.
Is your mic not working?
Yeah, I'm just yelling. It's okay.
It was working. But here, take mine.
No, but what I was going to say was just the important. Oh, yeah, yours is much better. I'm like, I can sing now. I was talking about narratives, about like you need to know how to keep your core narrative, but adapt to what's happening in the market so that you're not tone deaf. You don't want to say something that seems out of context because you didn't want to update your key messages. So, how can you modify it in a way that doesn't walk you completely away from who you are, but make it culturally relevant? And that's the name of the game, is trying to be culturally relevant in everything you do.
Yeah. Keep it. I got another one. So you can keep that really good one.
Okay.
All right. I'm going to ask a few more questions. I'm going to open it up for the audience. So I want to, because we're a center that focuses on growth markets, emerging markets, and it's really hard for a lot of entrepreneurs in these markets to raise capital. And sometimes it's hard for them to raise capital, not because there's something wrong with their business, but because of the reputation of their countries.
Yes.
So what do you do if you're an entrepreneur from India? Maybe India is doing a little better these days, maybe not. But from Egypt or from Nigeria or from the Dominican Republic or, countries that have certain reputations, and you're trying to build a very strong reputation in a place where the reputation is, poor economics, corruption. You get the drift. How do you navigate that as an entrepreneur? It's a
very good question. You are not there to be the spokesperson for your country. You are there to be the spokesperson for your ideas and yourself. So do your best to talk about sticking to the narrative of why you're there. And one thing that I do, and whenever I get asked a question that's far off of left field from what I'm there to talk about, I'm like, I'm not the expert. I'm not the person who knows. I don't have the details on those decisions or how they made them. But what I can tell you is I'm excited about 1, 2, and 3. You have to go back to your focus and say you don't know why. You can't talk about the corruption or things that are happening in your country. You can acknowledge it and say, you know what, I'm not very happy about it either. But what I'm here to do is I'm trying to change that by this small step. And this is what I'm trying to do, and focus on reinforcing your purpose, your mission, your values, your narrative, your messages. You can't speak on their behalf. You can never speak on behalf of something that you aren't directly involved in. And I think when you put it in that context for everybody, they're like, yeah, she's right.
And consistency of message. People like consistency, right?
For sure.
Okay, here's another question for you. So say when an entrepreneur in Nigeria is trying to scale to Brazil, or, someone in Egypt is trying to scale to Indonesia, and you have to navigate language barriers and cultural sensitivities and over time develop a global brand. How do you encompass all of these different narratives, different cultures, different languages in building a global narrative about a company?
Yeah, I think your values have to be universal regardless of the language of the city or the country of where you're trying to communicate. So think of like a Nike or a Coca-Cola. They don't adapt their brand messages based on the different cities and the different cultural nuances that exist in the world. So I think you need to be consistent in who you are and how be really focused on delivering it the same way to every culture. I do, though, know some of the best companies or brands that win is when they understand those nuances and find ways to connect locally with people through ideas, through the influencers, through the CEOs, through the companies, through the partnerships that show that, oh, they get it. They understand the importance of being a global brand, but have those local connectivities, those local touch points, the local culture element that really makes them feel like, aha, they got it.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to ask
Questions?
One last question, and then I'll open it up. This is a question for women because, women are the ones who tend to, I don't want to say play it low. I want to say play it small. Because, we're conditioned to play it small. And we have our limiting beliefs and inner critics and all the stuff that society has kind of shoved down inside of us. You made a decision in your life to stop playing small and to take control of your own power. Yes. Now, for the women in this room, what is your advice on how they can do the same?
It's easy. Just do it. Like, I just feel like you have no other choice.
You say that, but I look at Alicia and she's like, is she crazy?
No, I just feel
she's
like
building something that is really for women.
If not you, who? And if not now, when? That's my answer. One day at a time, one step at a time.
How did you do it? When was that moment when you...
I got forced to do things I didn't think I was capable of doing. And I'm like, wait, I can do this. Because I was tired of seeing other people step up and get these opportunities. I'm like, well, if I don't put my hat in the ring, I'm just going to be a witness of my life instead of actively participating and owning it. I wanted to have better experiences. I wanted to be challenged. I didn't want to just sit in my lane. I felt like I was just going to watch things pass me by. And I thought that looked more fun. And I'm like, I can be in the fun lane if I decide to just dip my toe in the water. And then the biggest message I'll say to the women for all of you here about this, of how I did it, it's this concept of confidence. Like, a lot of people are like, well, when I get confident, I'll take action. My message to you is the opposite. You take the action, and that's how you get the confidence. By taking the first step, you will get the confidence. It doesn't come from waiting for it to just, one day I'm going to have confidence to do this. If you do the action and you do the action, you will get the confidence.
Yeah. Fantastic. Should we open it up
for
some
questions?
Who has a question?
Yes.
All right, in the back. Stand up. Tell us your name. Ask your questions. Speak loudly, or someone can pass him a mic. Yeah, we can hear you.
Thank you.
I'm definitely going to check out your book. I'm currently right now building my company out of the MIT Trust.
Yes, I met you at the Africa Innovate Conference. You decided to come over to the Legatum Center. We love it. Thank you, Maha.
My question is pertaining to reputation, but once a reputation has been established, how do you sort of change it if it's something that's been established but it's not working in your favor?
Yeah. Actions. You need to do the actions. You need to build more relationships to tell people the reputation you want to have. Right? Your reputation is built from your actions and from your relationships. So if you want to change it, if you want to improve it, you have to change your actions. You have to change your relationships. It's doable. A lot of people think like it just happened to me and I can't change it. I just have a reputation. I can't change it or shape it. You 100% are in control of it. And if you're not, somebody else is, and they're not doing what you want them to do.
Thank you. Other questions? Go ahead, Mwele. I know you want to ask. I'm like, I know. I know you feel like you don't want to. Just go ahead.
No, thank you so much.
Thank you.
My name is Mwele Wilcox. I am a Legatum fellow. I think just like building off of Anand's question. I get it that like you can take action to change the narrative, but what if it's in conflict with like some of your values? So personally, like I have two values that are always conflicting
It's a world of and. It's not a world of or. You can do care and excellence. You can. Your brain, your mind is set on that thing. It's either or. You can do both. You can be really good at what you're doing, but be intentional and care about how you do it. One is what you do, and one is how you do it. It's a world of and instead of or.
Other questions?
One right here.
Go ahead.
Hi. Thank you.
Oh, you're Sada from Palestine. Yes. Phil Budden. I see. Thank you for coming.
It's never going to be a good time. If you keep waiting, don't be a waiter. Rule number 3, don't be a waiter. There's never going to be a right time. You just need to go.
You want to follow up, don't you? Go ahead.
No, go ahead. What does your gut say? You should listen to your gut. First of all, there's no such thing of taking a step and knowing going back. You make a decision with the information you have, and then you make another decision once you get new information, period. Everyone thinks like they have to have everything figured out, that everything has to follow a certain sequence. Life will unfold and it'll take you on a different path. If your gut tells you that you should go for it, you should go for it. Fear holding you back, judgment of others holding you back, circumstances outside of your control holding you back. Like if you think, oh, I think it's too high of a risk, then your gut tells you that, then don't do it. Many times in life, I have not followed my gut, and there were the things where I made the biggest mistakes. Because I knew it was the wrong thing to do, but I did it anyways because other people wanted me to do it, or it seemed like it was the right thing to do because that's what society appreciated or normalized or valued, and it wasn't right with me, and it never worked out, ever, not once.
Perseverance.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Or you go ahead first. It's okay.
Sorry, I didn't see. Sorry.
No, it's okay. Can you introduce yourself?
Yeah.
So I'm always in this dilemma that is it the right time to like invest all of my credits and use them, or does it multiply? I don't know about like social credit. That's my question.
Yeah, I think you have to, every relationship is different, and you know the relationship that you have with them. Is it something they would appreciate hearing from you more frequently, except for when you want to ask them a question? Is it, can you send them cards or emails and, just to stay in touch with them and then use a face-to-face meeting or interaction? You would know the barometer of what level do you need to communicate with them and how much. But I feel people that you value, whether you are going to need them for something in the future or not, you should always take the time to put a deposit in that trust bank. It's that important to you. Your mentor for 5 years is someone you should always stay in touch with, whether it's for a project or just because. So always be intentional about the people you want to build a relationship with, that you never know if you might need them, but you want to make sure that you keep them close, because if you have a question or you want to run something by them. So I always have this rule of thumb, because I deal with a lot with the press, and my job or my team has to always pitch the media and, wants them to pick up the phone when they're pitching a story. So when the media calls me asking, can you introduce me to so and so, or can you give me an article or know about research about this? I always answer the phone because I want them to pick up when I call them. And so I want you to think about that. Like, I want them to be able to call you and you be able to call them. And so you have to make sure you put in that effort. I would do that.
Perseverance, and then we'll go.
Yeah. So for that, I've been asked that question before. You have to set boundaries. You don't owe anybody excuses on why you're stepping back. Period. If it doesn't work with your values anymore, you definitely don't need it in your life. But you don't owe anybody an explanation. You can just set a nice little boundary, a little invisible line, and retreat. Question in the front row? Yeah.
Thank you. Great to meet you. Thank you for having me here. Thank you. Devon, I'm a first year in the executive MBA program at Sloan, and I really appreciate the first rule. It resonates a lot. I do recognize that, at least I'll say for myself, I feel like there's a tension, particularly thinking about the importance of laying low in the moment of when kind of what's happening around you. So I'm in the education space, and if your cause is being attacked, how do you balance the importance of staying low, be strategic, but then also recognizing that there's the tension to voice the importance of your mission in when it's being attacked in the larger kind of communication sphere?
Yeah, I think, we live in a world today where there's a lot of reactions about a lot of things that are happening around us, right? And sticking to your values, communicating what you really believe in. A lot of times I would advise clients or people to don't stick your stick your neck out on something that you have no business sticking your neck. If it doesn't align with your business and value, you don't really need to be talking about it. Save your ideas and reservations for yourself or for your inner circle.
I love how clear and simple you are about everything. Kish, last question.
Yeah, I was just saying, I would love to.
Please introduce yourself, Kishan.
I'm an alum of the program, the Legatum.
He's a fellow for life. He's transitioned to fellow for life.
I'm a fellow for life proudly, and I was curious, maybe we should get a book of your quotes together because they just
The
those,
Dina isms and the Maha. Yeah, maybe we should.
I think there are more Maha-isms than Dina-isms, but we could try.
We'll make one.
So I wanted to ask you about if you're working, whether it's a personal kind of your own personal branding or your business, and people are attacking the business, and kind of you have to make that trade-off between focusing and digging in and
Defending.
getting on with it or addressing kind of those challenges. I'm just curious, what experiences you've had around managing these and kind of what recommendations.
Yeah, I've dealt with so many crises on behalf of clients. And I think the first rule of thumb is rapid response, right? When a crisis hits a company or an employee or any brand, the longer you wait to reply to someone, the more damaging it is to your reputation. Because in that space lives misinformation, rumors, lies, things going viral, things getting out of control. And the whole definition of viral or a virus is you can't control it. And the internet now, you cannot wipe anything off the internet. There's no whack-a-mole where you take it off somewhere, it shows up somewhere else. So I think rapid response is key. 2 is something that is very much needed in this society is empathy. If you made a mistake, say sorry and apologize right away. 3rd, and this is something I learned when I was at Google, is sometimes we don't always get it right. What if you said that? Sometimes we make mistakes. As a company, we make mistakes and we don't always get it right. And for that, we're sorry. Next is you have to think of what policies do you need to change so that this doesn't happen again. Look inward. Don't point fingers, point thumbs. What do we need to change? And then how do we train everybody in the company or the organization on this new policy? and cascade it. And then after you've recovered and after you've apologized and after you've changed your policies and you've pointed thumbs, not fingers, then you can resurface and try to rebuild your brand and image, but not before taking the steps to work on yourself first.
Okay. I always like to end my sessions with, one question about hope, because we're big on hope here.
Yeah.
It's a really difficult time in the world right now. But for Maha, what brings you hope, the most hope in this current moment?
I actually think we have never been living in a better time to be alive. The world is full of opportunities. We have access to everything. I can learn about LeBron James's morning routine if I want to know what that's like, and I can see what so-and-so has in her bag. I can use AI to change the world. I have access to the internet and information. I can listen to any genre of any podcast in any topic that's weird or different or small or niche, and it's cool. I have so much hope because I feel that we have never been in a better time to be alive.